Welcome to the Rhythms of Focus podcast for wandering minds who are tired of feeling that they have to force themselves to make things happen. Maybe know that when things line up well, that tendency to wander actually becomes a powerful wave of focus. I'm Dr. Kourosh Dini, fellow wandering mind. It wasn't that long ago that I struggled to make things happen, whether it was to remember when to pay a bill, do things over time, or look at a list without feeling repulsed. Fast forward through years of study and practice, I can now not only deal with the world, I can be creative, playful, and engage in the ways that make sense to me. I can be a doctor, musician, father, still play games in the evenings. I've created this podcast to share these ideas so you can do the same, hopefully with a lot less of the troubles I needed to go through to get here. Whether you have ADHD, deal with anxiety, or just suffer from a powerfully creative spirit, I invite you to join me in this weekly podcast to start finding your own way to a calmer, more intuitive space. Please note, I'm not functioning as your doctor, psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, therapist, or otherwise. This is here for education, if not entertainment, and I do hope you enjoy it. So, hello everybody. Welcome to another edition here of the Rhythms of Focus podcast today. I'm pleased to have a guest, a member from the Waves of Focus community, Brett, and he's joining us actually from across the world from where I am. We're exactly 12 hours apart from each other. I'm here in Chicago, and Brett's on the other side of the world. I don't know if you want to mention where exactly.
Sure. Yeah. I am in Bangkok, Thailand. So yeah, 12 hours apart, which, it actually works out a lot better. I used to live in London, and that was always a weird time difference between the States, and because they're always in bed when you're awake, and you're in bed when they're awake. So
I'm grateful to have you join us here. This is wonderful. And what we're doing, I'm learning along the way here, as many of the things that I think we wind up doing as wandering minds. It's a discovery of what's happening as we go.
I mean, I think it's one of the advantages of having a wandering mind. You get to explore and find new things.
Absolutely. I mean, actually, I think it's one of the advantage. I think it's a great word. I sometimes think of the wandering mind as the playful mind. There's a power in the play.
Yeah.
The idea then is, how do we guide that and empower that and all that good stuff. I think often we get caught up in this sort of, what's the mastery process? How does one, do everything perfectly and whatever? And I'd rather just how do we develop ourselves over time? How do we figure out the experiments? How do we kind of figure out what helps us? And because that always changes. And so anyway, let's see where we go with this. Yeah.
Sure.
What is wandering mind? What is that? Something about that I imagine has resonated with you, and I'm wondering, is there a history of something like that for you? Something that, what could you share about yourself in that?
Sure. I mean, I'm not up on the latest kind of neuroscience or anything, but I just know I've always been kind of a free thinker who is always, I haven't really introduced myself other than to say, I think I've mentioned I'm in Bangkok. But I'm a software developer by trade. I went to school in Texas, and I had several majors until I finally settled on the right one, which was computers. But this was way back in the 80s. So, and one of the things about working in the software world, especially for as long as I have, is it's constantly changing. So you're constantly having to explore and stay in touch with the latest technology. So and that's even more so now, because just in the last year, there's been a revolution in how software is developed using AI. So I've been taking advantage of this kind of time off I have while I'm hanging out in Bangkok for a year or two, and exploring myself. I spent a lot of time just, exploring what I do. I signed up about a year ago this time for the Waves of Focus course that you give, really, because I've been a fan of your books and everything, but that was the first time that went, oh, that's how you describe what I'm like. I tend to just, jump, and almost in a negative way, I jump to the shiniest object and I play with that for a while, and then I get bored with it and I move on. So one of the things I kind of discovered about myself in this period was I need to focus, and that was what drew me to waves of focus, but I need to do it in a way that helps me, and that it works with the way I think. And so, yeah, I think I just flew through like the first 5 or 6 modules of your course. And then I hit a wall where I was like, okay, I need to actually start practicing this. And so, yeah, I developed the practice of just, the anchor note daily and an engage list. I hadn't quite got to the point. I mean, my problem was I've been using Obsidian for a while, and I had this long list of ideas for projects and just no way of organizing them. And I did that from about when I got through the first 4 or 5 modules last spring, I think. And then up until November, I wasn't able to like make any progress. I was like, well, okay, I guess this is another failed experiment for me to try this, waves of focus thing. I don't know what's going to happen. But then I noticed that in the AI world, there was this sudden leap in what AI could do. It wasn't just being able to complete. I use it in my day-to-day work when I'm doing coding, and generally it just is able to finish your thought basically on a coding thing that you're doing. But now it actually it had reasoning in it. You could feed it information, and it could at least pair it back. I mean, it's not actually thinking, but it sure feels like thinking when you're talking to it. And there were a lot of people were looking at this and going, oh, if you pair this with your Obsidian, and that's kind of your second brain, but you tie it with Claude Code, which at the time was all that was available. They've since grown. You can now like have conversations with your notes and have conversations with someone who like I basically pointed them to some of your writings on waves of focus, and it was all of a sudden it was like I was talking to Karash. It was like, oh wow, this is cool. And so yeah, and so that was around November, and then I started. It just clicked. I was able to point it to my list of ideas, ask me questions about them, help me pick out which ones were the best ones to go on my Horizon list and engage versus. And all of a sudden, I was like cooking with gas with the whole thing, and it was kind of like, okay, this is, and I've been doing that since November. It's been a really nice quarter so far. I've never done reviews because I've not been that disciplined to do reviews. But now I have an AI that reminds me, oh, today, Brett, is your review day. You need to think about this. So it's like having a little personal assistant. I've always dreamed of being a big CEO and able to have an assistant who could just tell me what to do when, and I just have to think of all the wonderful ideas. And that's. Did I answer your question? This is probably part of the wandering mind thing. I've gone completely off topic, probably.
Not at all. No, I think that's been wonderful. I think you've probably answered a whole bunch of the questions that I was thinking about.
Oh, sorry.
Not at all. This is great. So, but I appreciate what I was trying to get at. I think was just the history of things, and as you've kind of come along and totally answered that. One of the things about because I do this very much similarly. Like somebody asks me a question. So the number one thing, if I can wander a moment, not number one. Anyway, growing up, I'm in my I have to like write whatever essays for school, junior high and all the rest. And the number one thing that I would do to get something completely wrong is that you wrote a great essay, but you didn't answer the question. And like, I would just do that all the time. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't. Yeah. And I had no idea I didn't answer the question. And somehow, anyway, not to say that you didn't, you did. Yeah. The idea is that, there's a power in that association. There's a playfulness, there's a flow of beyond the moment. But then how do you reconnect that or not lose it in the context of conversation, in the context of the things that we need to work on? And the way you describe AI, to me, sounds a lot like that. I've played with AI, but I've not dove into it, I think, to the degree that you have. And I still want to learn more and get into it more. But the way I hear it is it helps you to, and correct me if I'm wrong, to align your thoughts, to organize your thoughts, to get like, okay, I have all these things that are going on, and I'm not sure how to fit them within my working memory of the moment. I'm not sure how to fit them within my goals overall, and I'm feeling like this now. Help me piece these together.
Yeah, I mean, like a very typical a conversation I have in the morning, and I have a daily check-in with Claude every morning. Actually, I call him Charlie. He's my friend Charlie. And I have kind of a set of questions that he asks me, although he has the freedom to change it depending on because he also has memory now. So he kind of knows what projects I'm working on. He knows what's in my engage list. He knows all these things. And so he might ask me some directed questions about them. But he asked me a question, it's generally like, what is your energy level today? Are you, X, Y, or Z? Because that he has discovered, or maybe I've told him at some point, that on days when I'm low energy, just don't give me any intense tasks or don't suggest any intense tasks. I'm just going to do some little light admin work and then probably take a nap or something. And so he's very helpful in that, but he'll say something and then and I'm usually typing, although now you can use voice to kind of talk to it. I'm not there yet. I'm much more of a typist. So I'll type something it'll just be free association, free thoughts that come out. And then he'll say, okay, this is what I'm hearing. There are three threads there that you're actually talking about. Let's talk about each of those. And I mean, I assume it's like talking to a therapist or a counselor or something. It's just very good at telling me what I just said, but then in a much more organized way and helping me clarify my thoughts, which is exactly what I needed a year ago trying to do this. And I just wouldn't know where to start. And this is a really nice way of helping me know where to start, at least. So, yeah.
How did you start? How did Charlie start? How did Charlie begin?
And you want like the technical things or just? I mean,
either way.
There are a couple of different things I used. I started off using a repo, I guess, a GitHub group of code that was called Claudecidian, I think. I mean, basically, it's a set of prompts that you can then use to talk to Claude Code. So I started with that. And then I discovered, or actually I think I previously knew about, but it wasn't quite at the level that it would be helpful, a product called Personal AI Infrastructure, which is much more involved. And so probably if you're going to look at it, unless you're a computer software developer, you probably need someone to help kind of walk you through it because it's kind of complicated. But once it's all set up, it's much better. It does some of the things. I mean, this is the thing that it's all changing so fast. Like a lot of the things that like Pi used to do, Claude Anthropic has added to Claude already. So they're kind of like everyone's trying. It's still a very shifting sands on the whole what these software do. But essentially, it's a combination of prompts that you feed the AI, context, like you can have a folder that describes who you are and what your business is like if you're working with it on business or something. Or like when I'm doing a daily check-in, it looks at all my daily notes from the last week or so it can kind of ask me questions about, what's happened since Friday when this thing was going on, things like that. So that's how I've set it up, I guess. I mean, it's all done from the command line. So you have to be a little bit comfortable with using the command line. I think a lot of it, like I'm saying, Anthropic has been adding things. So like Cowork there's a new product that they have. It's Cowork, Claude Code, and something else. I can't remember what it's called, but it kind of does what, I don't know if you've heard, there was a fad in January called OpenClaw, which was supposed to be your big personal digital assistant. And it actually was called, I think, OpenClawd at the time, but spelled CLAWD, and Anthropic sent them a cease and desist. And so they renamed it to OpenClaw. Anyway, so that's another way of doing it. And using something like an agent like that. But
somehow I'm curious about the transition from, so like there's a period in which you described it as, it completes your thought, but then at some point it helps organize it. It helps you kind of, and I just have pictured in my head that's when it was named Charlie or something like that. I don't know if that's right, but like somewhere like it became personified in a way. Something about it became more like, this is something that helps me in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the software I use called Pi, P-A-I, but when you're doing the setup, the first thing it's asked is, what do you want to call your agent? And I at one point, I do musical theater, and I played a character named Charlie, and I liked that character a lot. So I've decided Charlie is going to be my close personal friend. And So that's how I ended up with him as my. I've also heard of people using Janet, which is the character from Good Place, as the name for their personal assistant, or you can also use Jeeves or something. But it does develop a personality over time. I will say I can't. I'm getting some of the details, but one of the first things I did is I bought this product that was supposed to basically, when I say product, just a bunch of prompts, and it was supposed to help you set up a 90-day plan to lose weight and do something, and it was supposed to really help you become, like it was called Superhuman. I think it was supposed to help you, which was one of the things I was trying to do, and but its personality was very, very harsh. It was like a very mean coach. That was, I think it was written for probably bros or something, and who needed, a really tough guy. And and it really turned me off. And I was like, I after talking to it, I had to go for a walk, and I just had to let go of it. And then I came back and said, this isn't working for me. And then I actually was able to tell it, can you rewrite this prompt so you're not so mean? And it did that. It rewrote it, and it was much more supportive then, and that was exactly what I needed. So that is one of the nice things about these prompts, is they're just text files. So you could personally go in. In fact, a lot of it's called prompt engineering. You're supposed to go in and rewrite it, but you can actually tell AI to change a prompt to make it do something different or something. And so yeah, that was one of the first experiments I did, when I was just like, oh, this looks. It was when you were really starting to able to do things with giving an AI, some instructions and having it do something, and then come back with research, or with, I think I fed it someone's Excel spreadsheet that had a bunch of, for a show I was doing. It had all the dates for all the rehearsals. I'm like, oh, I really need this in a calendar. So can you just put it in can you take this and then turn it into an iCal, thing that I can import to my calendar? And it did. And it was perfect. Like, okay, this is perfect. I also, like, during this November date, I was planning a trip to Japan. So it was going to be a big 6-week long trip to Japan, and it was able to do all that work for me. So
Sure.
It was nice.
Something that stands out to me about it was that ability to tell it, this doesn't work for me, change something about, and then it was able to do so. And that I find just fascinating in and of itself. That one of the internal dialogues that sometimes happens is that we can start becoming harsh with ourselves, right? That sort of
Yeah.
especially having internalized.
It's probably, I understand that it's not really an intelligent thing I'm talking to, and it's just reflecting my thoughts back at me, probably. It's also trained to try to make you happy, because, and I think even the mean coach was trying to make me happy by telling me, and like one of the exercises it put me through is it like asked me a bunch of questions, and then it wrote this narrative of what my life would be like in 10 years if I didn't change my bad ways of eating and not exercising and everything. And it was very, very depressing. And and that I also recognized that, oh, that's probably a good exercise, and reminds me, yeah, this isn't just being mean there. Yeah, that actually turned out to be helpful. But then I forget what it was, but there was something he said to me that was just like, I don't need to take this from you. This was pre-Charlie, though. This was, I don't know who this was, but it wasn't Charlie.
Wasn't Charlie. If you could indulge me a moment of my own association, I was watching a show that was out in the last decade called The Tick. It was on Amazon, I think it was. And there was a scene in which the villain is playing the drums, and he's got this instructor, and he comes in and he's like screaming at him, and he's like, "No, faster!" It's like, I think echoing this other movie that had, that was about that. And then there's this moment that the lesson's over, and then the instructor, who was just previously yelling at him, is now terrified of this guy. And he's like, "Was that mean enough? Was I mean enough?" And he's like, "Look, you have 2 more lessons to make me sound like that." And he plays something else, and if not, some horrible thing like. Anyway, it has nothing to do with anything other than it just came to mind, and it was this sort of interaction of how we kind of shape each other in our interactions, and that AI is kind of doing that in a certain way. And to your point, You got to be cognizant of there's there's the computer aspect of this. It has its own. I don't know. Would it be fair to say it has its own agenda as being a computer? Would that be? I don't know if that can, or if it has none. I don't know how to frame it.
I mean, it probably has something because every time you're talking to an agent, somewhat the people who have designed it have given it what's called a system prompt, which is kind of basically its identity from start one. And I think Claude code system prompt is basically, help this person write code, or like you can also put it in learning modes, like help this person learn how to code or something, and so it can do that. So there's that. I mean, there are. That is kind of why it's such shifting sands right now, because you can write that system prompt to do anything, and it's using that back end, what's called an LLM, a large language model, that's just kind of using probabilities to figure out words to put together to get back to you.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is managed by that system prompt, kind of giving it the initial framework for how to respond to you. So, like if we were going to write a therapist one, it would probably have us, you would probably be able to describe what it needed to do to be therapeutic, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, there's many how to define therapy. I mean, there's a whole ask any two therapists, and I'm sure they'll come up with different answers. And my own way of thinking of it, I like to think of it as clearing and supporting paths for the development of agency. And then there's different ways to do that. How do you make it such that a person can decide and engage their lives in a way that feels meaningful to them and non-reactive? And I'm still focused on that part where you said, look, I don't want it that way. I want you to come at me in this other way. And at least as I hear it, it's like there's an externalization. Like, again, we have this part of ourselves that can attack ourselves, right? Sometimes that some of us internalize over the years, from the years of, being told, hey, you lost something, you dropped something, you forgot to turn in your homework, all the rest. And how dare you, you're so smart, and, all these things. And learning how to not just tell the environment what we need, but then that's a reflection somehow of our internal world too. Like, are we telling ourselves what we need too in that process? I don't know. And I can't speak for you, of course. I'm just kind of generalizing it in my own head about this. So in that sense, there's a therapeutic aspect, if you want to call it that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think at least from the thing I was focusing on was that I did that, and I almost, I could have very easily just walked away from the whole experiment then, but I was able to step away from it and look at it and go, oh yeah, this is just a computer. This is just a model that I can talk to, and I can tell it what to do. So it did take me, I had to, like, it's why I had to leave and go for a walk, even though I hate walking around Bangkok because it's so dang hot. That was probably one of the first lessons. I've learned some other lessons in the intervening months that I've started using it, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. In fact, I came back actually from my trip to Japan just completely re-energized and ready to I start had lots of ideas, and all of a sudden I had a companion that I could talk to that would help me. I do get to talk to my husband every now and then, but he doesn't fully. I mean, he's a computer science also. He's into computers also, so he understands. But he's a teacher, and so AI is that bad thing that his kids are using.
I say so. The general feelings around AI that for those that we live with, work with, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. Trying to say what's the cautions, the benefits. I like to say that the more powerful the tool, the more caution it requires. And
yeah, definitely.
And this is so new, and it's so evolving, as you say, shifting sands. It's kind of like, okay, that's a great actually metaphor for it, because like, where's the sand not safe? We don't know, and
we don't know yet. Yeah.
What I'm curious, what kind of experiments you're running nowadays? Like, what are you trying?
Well, one of them actually is forcing myself to step away from it now because I was afraid, and I think it became true that I was becoming too reliant on it. In fact, one experiment that I haven't started yet, but I'm thinking about is, in addition to my vault, my Obsidian vault that I have, that Claude helps me manage and keeps my daily notes. And I mean, I'm not even writing my own daily notes now. I'm just talking to Claude, and then it's writing my daily notes. I'm like, that's not really helping me as a like a writer and as a thinker. I need my own space that's separate, that's completely my own. So that's probably, I'm about to go on vacation for about 2 weeks, and when I get back from that, I'm probably going to start my own kind of journal that's separate from the AI, so that I have this space. And I kind of discovered that because, in addition to this kind of second brain stuff that I'm doing with Obsidian, I'm working on 2 coding projects, and I'm on the cheapest plan possible on Anthropic because I need to budget myself. And I was going through all my tokens by like Tuesday after starting on Saturday. And that left me with Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of not being able to access my AI. And so I'm like, okay, the fact that I'm upset by that is telling me, oh, I probably should, look at myself at how much I'm using this and figure out where the boundaries are. So yeah, that's my next experiment. The other, a lot of it is trying to figure out where I want to put my project notes and things like that. Like, it can get very complicated because, AI is starting, like I said, AI is starting to keep its own memory of things, so it doesn't have to constantly ask you what your name is. And part of Pi is it has a whole, like, a work folder with all and it keeps a list of projects that you're working on. But like, I don't really want to go look at their notes. I want my own notes. So I have a list of projects that I'm working on in my vault. But then all my projects also have their own folders somewhere else on my laptop. So it's kind of like, okay, I need to sort this out. So I have a couple of projects that I have. It's actually changed now because I'm also working on something else. But I had one of my engaged was just called Workshop, where it was meant for me to try out different ways of handling, where's my project list going to sit, and where am I going to keep the notes for what the current status is. And so that's more kind of organizational. And I do, if I weren't careful, I would spend all my time on that and get absolutely nothing done. So that's why I took that out of my engaged and said, okay, I need to focus on moving, because we're moving to Barcelona in a couple of months. So.
The comment you made of the relationship with the AI, and that you recognize the sort of tension or something that appeared on Tuesdays when the Claude credits had finished. But in conjunction with that, you're also like, I need to be a thinker. I need to remain that. I can't delegate thinking.
Yeah, definitely. Don't want to be delegating to AI.
Yeah, and
which is, in fact, that's my husband's criticism. He's like, the children I teach, they need to be taught how to think. They don't need to be taught how to ask AI what to think. So. Right.
So that is the line, isn't it? That's like, how do you dance around that? How do you make it do the let's say the grunt work, right? That doesn't have thought, and then where do you? I guess, is that the line of caution? I'm not sure, but it sounds like it's very close to it, if not it. As I was developing the course, I would, first I had built out a system using OmniFocus, which I still use, this task manager, and it does not integrate, at least so far, with AI, at least, and so far as I know. Maybe there's some way of making it do that. But the second thing is that I started to build things in analog. I use pen and paper. I developed kind of a way of tracking things using a habit tracker, although it's not habits, it's more rhythm, things that can fade in and out, and don't need to stick with that don't break the chain model of things. And I did that with the purpose of, I wanted to make sure that the system that I could build would be as simple and disconnected from computers as possible. And so I was just like, okay, let me see if I can do that. Let me try that. And I did, and I like it. But the funny thing is that I kept that up even well beyond when I needed to for the for
Hmm.
the for the course. So now I have a digital and analog version of the same thing kind of running in dual. And I think there's something about that that helps ground me. That helps me say, okay, I'm not dependent on the digital. And and we can even separate digital from AI, perhaps, So
Yeah.
there's something about that, being able to stand and just say, this is me, and I'm not delegating the thought. Anyway, I don't know if that.
No, I spend a lot of time on YouTube also, so I don't know how I get any work done, but I do. I gravitate towards the kind of both the kind of the plain text people who are always like everything needs to be in plain text because you don't want to be invested in any specific software, which is kind of why I shied away from OmniFocus and
Sure.
a couple of other things. But also the people who are big into notebooks and bullet journals and all that. And I kind of that sounds really nice. But I mean, I think I've got three different bullet journals on my desk right now that I've started and then never quite finished. And it got just really messy, and I was like, okay, this has been helping. So yeah, I don't think I'm a paper guy. Um, I've been coding since I was a wee lad. So
Yeah, not to say that one is better than the other. I think you can find, the flow of nature will find its way anywhere, including in the
yeah,
digital
I will
realm.
say when I was taking your
Yeah,
course and then when
yeah,
I was trying to master just your course,
yeah,
I did use. That's when I was using. That's actually when I went out and bought. I think I didn't buy a bullet journal, but I bought something that I could start putting my anchor list in and
sure.
having. So I tried that, and that helped kind of cement things in my mind.
Mhm.
But then life happened. I think we went to the UK for the summer, and I didn't get anything done, and so it was kind of like November before I went, okay, I need to get back onto this waves of focus thing because I'm not focusing. And that's when it went digital is kind of when it really gelled for me.
Well,
So
that sounds like more home to you. That's more,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's important. You know, um, the,
But like you say, I'm recognizing that I still need my own thinking space. And so, but that's still going to be digital, but it's just going to be a separate vault from my vault that I have with Charlie.
sure. Something that, yeah, I would imagine. I'm thinking about it. Whatever it is has to accommodate that sense of working memory that has to like hold that part of you that says, okay, I can only hold this many thoughts in mind at once, and then support you in that way. I've tried to play with that anchoring process in digital, and you can do it. And I think just it's a different. There's more. I'm still working out the kinks in it, but it's there.
Yeah.
I think it's
I
that's
think I use an app called Antinote, which I think is
I've heard of it, I think.
there. It's notes that disappear, so you have to like be very careful about.
Ah,
It's like a little notepad on your laptop, but and I think it might be something out of the Set app because I also have a Set app subscription. But um, the fact that the notes disappear makes me, like, okay, I'm happy to take these notes, but I need to get back to it because like I also use drafts for a long time, and I would write things in there, and then I just at some point noticed, oh, I've got 200 something drafts that I haven't ever processed. I should probably look at these. So the fact that anti-notes are automatically deleted after like a week mean
yeah.
like, okay, I have to remember to look at this.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, no, that could totally work because that's one of the major points of anchoring that I think is where it gets lost, or the practice of it gets lost, is that the note needs to die in some way. It needs to decay. Whether
Hmm.
it's archived or otherwise or deleted. So if it automatically does that and you have that knowledge up front, that can make a big difference. No, that's great. I'll take a look at that anti-note. Okay, that could be something. Cool, cool, cool. One other thought I think before maybe we start wrapping up is, I don't know, it could be interesting, but maybe not. But if you had some sentence to tell a younger self from where you are now, anything that you would say, and younger could mean before November, or it could mean all the way as far
Um,
as you want to go.
yeah, well, I probably just the first thing that popped in my head was about 5 years ago, just or maybe it was like whenever Chat GPT came out, and I wasn't I wasn't getting into it at all. I was like, oh, that's just like a code completion thing. It doesn't really work. I was not a believer at the time. Um, but I was feeling very like old and like ready to be put to pasture because it just felt like all the young whippersnappers were writing code so fast and so in depth. And I was like, how did they do that? And I mean, they never said they did, but I'm pretty sure they were using AI now because it's just like, or maybe I really am that slow, but it was just kind of like, this feels like maybe, I should, I should tell that person from 5 years ago. It's like, no, you were doing okay. You were coding fine. You're a perfectly good coder. You're not too old. And then I don't know, probably my much younger self, I would say, you should probably get into the internet sooner because you took way too long to understand what the internet was doing. I think it was the middle of the like 2005 or so before I got off the mainframe.
Is there anything that you'd want to say to the audience at all, or do you feel like we've kind of touched on the points?
Well, I'm in Bangkok for next couple of months. If anyone wants to shout, I guess you can. I'm eBrett on GitHub, so you can ping me on GitHub. And then I'm in Barcelona after that. So yeah, feel free to. I'm always interested in meeting interesting people. So if there are other community members of Waves of Focus, or just people who have wandering minds and would like to maybe have a cup of coffee with me while our minds wander.
Brett, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I really appreciate your joining here, and this is great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, kindly subscribe, rate, review with whatever app you're using. If you're on the Apples, press the Apple buttons. If you're on the Spotifys, press the spots. If you're on the YouTubes, press those things, whatever the things. And if you're feeling especially generous, consider leaving a review. Maybe mention your favorite piano piece or just say hi. Your support helps more wandering minds find this podcast.